Let's call the meeting to order. First on the agenda is the approval of the April 10th meeting of the notes. A motion of the approval of the April 10th meeting minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 10th meeting.
Thank you. Second? Any discussion? Okay. Did I say something wrong, Susan? Mm-hmm. Oh, vote, sorry. Thank you. All in favor?
It's been a month since he's been here.
Golf reports. Mark?
For the Highlands, thank you. For the Highlands, Bill up at the pub is doing great. He had Derby Day last week. It was the community showed up. It was a great day there. The week before that, he had live music. He is his sales should be showing, I mean, really well up there. He has the whole pub doing great. He's requesting to see if he can maybe start serving a little bit of extra hot food up there in a crock pot. Bill's trying to reach out to a couple other patrons to see if he can give them some different options. So the pub is doing great with the numbers.
Here with Tommy.
So, Alex, he has some, there's new items up there for sale. With the weather, again, everybody's dealing with the rain now, and the golf rounds they're doing good considering the weather. He's starting up the junior program starting next week, setting up some tournaments for the Highlands, and he's just wishing for some sun like everybody else is. And Greg, he's doing the same thing with the rain, the washouts, cleaning up the washouts on the fairways. The course is looking great. Just needs some dry out areas and some sun to show up there. He just wants to make sure, when the carts are on the path, stay on the path, and when they're allowed to go on the fairways, make sure just keep an eye on if there's any wet areas, and be very careful because there's going to be some of the areas going to be saturated. So just have they're warning the cart people to tell the employees to tell everybody out there driving to keep an eye on for wet areas and watch out for any debris out there. So, but besides that, it's looking good if we get some nice weather.
Thanks, sir. Marion?
Country Club took quite a hit with this last rain event. I was out Saturday playing and Tuesday, and there's still quite a bit of debris out there, and cart paths that are underwater. But overall, the grass is coming in good, and the greens are running true and smooth. Nice job. That's about all I got to say.
Dean?
Scottsdale's looking great, plays great. Had a little, Kyle's giving away gravel. If anybody wants any gravel, go see Kyle, and he'll give it to you. His staff did a great job getting that course back to play. I couldn't believe it. I went out there last Sunday to play, and we were off cart paths. I couldn't believe it. But had to shorten up number 3 to par 3 for that tournament. Got the tournament in. Everything's going good in the clubhouse. Driving range has been closed for a week, I guess, because there's water running over the bridge. Can't get over there. Other than that, I think it's going great. Sales are up. Golf's up. Everything's good.
Is your score up or down?
I just want to jump on that real quick. We got Kyle with us, and I want to thank him. We had a Gravit event, high school event on the Saturday morning, and it was up in the air whether we were even going to have it. Spoke with Kyle, got it happening, and we opened the course full 18 on Saturday. We had 23 teams that raised the most money they've raised in a long time, and that's because of the hard work of the superintendent's crew. Thank you, Scottsdale.
Let me interrupt for 1 second and go ahead and introduce the 3 superintendents that are here, that are sitting over there. The first one, Kyle, stand up, he's Scottsdale. Rob Dreesen is here at Bella Vista Country Club. They are relatively new, the last 2.5, 3 years that they've been here. The more experienced guy on the end down there is Reed Holly. He's Burksdale and Kingswood. Greg could not be here because his son is sick, and they didn't really have as much flooding up there. And Scott from Medfield's not here either because of a child problem. But these three are the ones that were affected by the flood. So if you have any specific questions, that would be a good way to direct them. Thank you.
Thank you, guys, because I know that was a, last couple of weeks been pretty tough, but the course is being open as much as possible. We appreciate all the hard work, for sure. Susan?
Okay, at Dogwood, starting with the clubhouse, again, their food and beverage sales continue to grow, so they were up 114% last month. And they figured out how to handle requests from golf groups, so they're getting more requests for after golf play. So that's working out great. They also just got several new women's outfits out there, really cute. The course itself is great. It's soggy like everybody else. They had minimal damage from the rains, although they did lose one tree. Bermuda grass is coming in. The greens are great. So that's all doing well, and they're planning on fertilizing this week on Friday if they can with the weather. They are having an issue with their ice machine leaking, but they found out the root cause of it. It has to do with them when the power goes out. Apparently one of the switches doesn't come on quite as quickly and they have some leakage. So Paul's working on that. They are having some challenges getting the mowing done on both courses between the rain and the shotguns and everything else. And they still have one seasonal position to be filled. They're doing the fishing derby on the lake on May 18th. And the play at Brittany is above where it was in 2017, below 2018, and it's still lagging. One other comment about bathrooms, and this may be more of a general comment, but the bathrooms really, really need to be clean. The floors are becoming, littered with insects and rodent debris, and I noticed it at played country club, played Highlands. I saw on one of the other ones had a comment about that. So we really need to get them to do a really thorough job and make sure you clean the tops of the the windowsills and all that, because the dead fly bodies hanging around out there. So if you could take that, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Bill?
Kingswood looks wet as everything else. The clubhouse is good. The sales are up slightly. Main problem that the golf maintenance had was a large water main break under number 8 tee box that required some repair and digging a very large deep hole. That has been done. The tee box was small, and so they have enlarged the tee box by moving it slightly to the right towards the creek to make it larger and have a little bit more flexibility of where they put their tee boxes, the tees.
Markers.
The blocks, there you go, whatever we're talking about. And that won't change your shot significantly. It's just slight more dog leg on your second shot. Otherwise, everything looks good.
Good, thank you. Steve?
Can I make one comment on that? That tee was added at some point later. You never build a tee over top of a main line for that reason. So because it was on a main line is one of the main reasons we moved it, and then we took the opportunity to enlarge it while we were doing it.
Tanyard's looking good, very busy, successful. They have a new promotion going on, and evidently it's very successful as well, and they're thinking of continuing it if possible. We talked again a little bit about the nets, and apparently they're already out there. They just need someone to go up the poles and attach them, especially with the growth that's good on the golf courses, but it's going to hide the balls there on the left side. And then the other thing is the signs for golf-only parking, especially as the summer rolls around. Yeah. So that was it, but everything looks great.
Yes, sir.
Alex, one good comment Alex was talking to me about, and I think I've seen it on all of our golf courses, is we have, it seems like more walkers with and without pets on our golf courses during play. And I don't know what you can do about it, but I've noticed it, and it's a concern I know Alex has and what to do with it. So we don't have play managers anymore, and I suppose that impacts it. People feel like they can get out and nobody's going to chase them off now, so.
Maybe we include a notice in the upcoming newsletter.
Darrell? Golf ops?
All right, we're going to start with the golf rounds for April. If you'll notice, we ended up finishing up April with 14,524 rounds played of golf. That is up over last April, just the month of April, by 1,692 rounds. On a positive note, total rounds for the year to date, are down by 298 over last year at this time, at the end of April. The breakdowns as follows: member rounds are down by 698, and non-member rounds are up by 400. So we're trading last year just by a little bit. If we get to the revenue portion of it, green fees trail by $47,634. Cart revenue is down by 32 over last year. Guest revenue is up by 2,676 over 18, and merchandise is up by 12,500 over 18. So some positive numbers in there. We just keep moving forward as far as rounds go. We have had to reschedule some tournament events because of rain, so those will be coming in later. And we did lose one where it's a rain or shine event, so the event was paid out accordingly, and no golf was played. Those are the financials. Any questions on that?
Do you know what the total is for the revenue?
We just add those. All those
Never mind,
numbers
I can
down.
add them, thanks.
Yeah, that's what, we break it down. Any
So-
other questions?
Yeah, so to clarify, so if I look at the member 2017, 18, and 19, it looks like, I think that's what you're saying, is that on the member play, it's up 100, but then evidently the annual play is down, and those are the rounds. Is there, is there maybe a feeling that people are not doing the annuals, but maybe going out and playing anyway? Is there any sort of correlation or thought toward that? I mean,
So,
I'm just
early
tossing it
season-
out.
Early season golf groups, cancel golf groups where most of the member play, the annuals are on golf groups, and then you got them going out later afternoon. Let's have a look here real quick.
And then on the non-members, I think you mentioned the rounds were up 400 from non-members.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are up.
And I would caution you, anytime you look at some of the smaller round months, meaning where there's limited play, that whether, the first 4 months of the year, I'd always be careful. The last 2 months of the year, I'd always be careful, because any shift in weather and what day it rains or what day it doesn't rain can have a dramatic impact upon weather. But to answer your question, yeah, we are seeing as our population ages, we are seeing some people age out and not get annuals.
So then you'll see
And then
that
maybe-
that the play on the member player will increase, and the guest rounds are up. A lot of the promotional cards that went out, the commercials on TV, we're getting a lot of people coming into the village. When the weather's good, they come on in late afternoon. We're up.
And then it looks like Brittany from last year has nearly doubled in rounds. And then I guess just for the 1 month, it's up about 700, so that's a positive.
Okay. All right, moving on. Golf tournaments coming up. We've got the Round Robin. That is the couples event in May. The two-person Round Robin event here at Country Club. You'll see it out there. We're promoting it on the Golf Update. We're putting it on the forefront. Sign up. Currently, we're looking for about another 10 to 12 teams, and we'll be good to go on that. We've got the ATP coming up. We're in full pursuit ahead. Jake Grasmick asked, we did ask for a volunteer day on May 6th. We did not have a good showing. The weather was kind of iffy. May 16th, here at Country Club, we're going to have a volunteer day, and basically what it is to clean up flower beds, help spread some mulch around to make the golf course look good for all the visitors coming in for the APT tour. So May 16th from 8 to 11, bring your shovels and rakes, meet at the cart barn. We'll get you out on the course. We've got some certain spots to go with Rob, and we'll take care of the golf course. 8 to 11. And it's on the Golf Update. We promoted it, and we'll promote it again on Friday. And we'll get out there and help it out. Yeah, Country Club, yeah. So if you're not doing anything that morning, come on out. That's all I got.
Thanks, Daryl. Keith, Lance?
Okay, I want to start out with something a little more positive, considering we've had floods and cold weather and all of that. Our Audubon Sanctuary Program certification at Burksdale, which is being run by Wendy Barnes, who is actually the assistant on Burksdale. There are 7 total certifications within the overall. She had completed 3. She got 2 more just accepted, and we have 2 remaining. So she is confident that we will be able to complete the complete certification at the end of the year. And then she's got a good experience. I hope down the road she'll be able to help us get some of the other golf courses done as well. One of the certifications that's remaining to be done is in the community outreach. And we have an inaugural Bio Blitz at Burksdale this year, which is on May 22nd from 10 to 2. Which is a scorecard. You go out and see how much wildlife, see the different things we're doing. We're also using the gentleman that works with our fisheries here. He's going to show us the ponds where they've been hatching the fish for our lakes, so how the golf course is being used. So there's a lot more to the golf course than just golf, and we want to be able to publicize that. We're doing it on a small scale this year. We're going to invite groups that play over there, 9-hole groups, and let them, mainly the garden club, some of those people. Down the road, we hope to be able to incorporate like Cooper Elementary maybe, do some things like that to promote what we do here on the golf courses for the environment. So I think that's a real positive. There's some articles that we post on our webpage. We put it in the Friday e-blast, so it's out there. So
What date is that again, Keith?
what's that?
What date?
It's the 22nd, and it goes from 10 to 2. And we've already worked with the golf shop to be able to have carts. Marketing actually did a little markup for us. It's right here. We're going to have little stickers that we could give out. So if you come, you can put it on your golf cart or your car or wherever you want. So it's something to promote us as an organization, and then the golf particularly. So I want to thank marketing for doing that as well. The next thing, probably what most people might be interested in, is the flood update, and I'm here to tell you that this was a pretty mild incident for us. What's interesting, this one was almost 2 years to the day of the last one we had. And the other thing that's interesting about that, the last one we only had like 2.5 inches here. This year we range from 4.5 at Metfield all the way up to 8 inches at Highlands, but we had less flooding. So it kind of goes for those of you that know anything about the hydrology study we did and where our watersheds are. It kind of emphasized what we learned during that process. It's 2 major factors in flooding here. One is where it falls, and 2 is how quickly it falls. So most of the rain was outside of our watershed, so we didn't get all that rush down the creek, so we got a lot less debris, less rock. less trees, and then it was kind of a long process, slowly. The last one we had here doesn't hurt us as much because it's going to get downstream. But when it's above us, Bentonville, Centerton, and Pea Ridge, that's where we get the majority of the water. Only place that we get damage here when it falls directly on top of us, unfortunately, is Scottsdale, because it fills that lake right there. And some of these little creeks that run across, like for example, it runs across in front of 3T here at the country club. It comes off that hill, washes all that gravel. We get that. But as far as in Little Sugar, if it falls in the right place, and the right place being where we don't get a flood, then we get less. So I think it was a good learning curve for us to see that. A lot of people thought, well, just because we had 5 inches of rain, we were going to just be wiped out, and that's not true. We could get 5 inches of rain in the right place. We could get 2 inches of rain in the right place, and we could have a problem. Also happy to report the new crossing from 10 to 11 here at Bella Vista Country Club worked exactly like we wanted it to, because we were able to open at least 3 days that we would not have been open if we hadn't had that, because the spillway had too much water going over it. So that was a success. We're happy to report that. I do not have any major areas yet that would cost us larger dollars. Most of our expense so far has been just in labor. We do have a few areas that I'm going to look at as the creeks continue to go down. There's a couple at Scottsdale. You'll notice if you played Scottsdale number 4T on the white tee, they redid the roads up on top of that hill about 2 years ago and sent the water to us a lot faster. So it keeps washing out behind that concrete wall on that tee and brings a boatload of gravel down there in the front that's piled up. So you'll see that we're going to have to repair that. We're going to try to see if there's a way to minimize that. I doubt if there's much we can do, but we will investigate that. The riprap and stuff we repaired last year in front of that green there on 2 at Scottsdale held. There's a little bit by the bridge now we might have to look at. It's kind of a little new location, but the bridge is not in danger because these big arch bridges were engineered and their footings are way down in the ground. They're solid. So we're not concerned about any of the bridges, which is a plus. We lost some railings at a couple of the bridges that were repaired. So that was minor. And then I would say the biggest problem we have right now is getting the last of the debris picked up because it's too wet. You know, we get 2 days of sunshine, we get started a little bit, and then it rains again, and we can't get any equipment out there to do anything without making too big of a mess. I asked Kyle, and it will be in the Friday E-Blast, Golf E-Blast, to give us a little article on what he does to clean up out there, which is pretty similar to what everybody else does. So it's a pretty good little article on how we do certain areas. Like Scottsdale, we could get the back 9 open first, so we worked on that first, try to get what we can get open as soon as we can and work our way the other way. All the golf courses were completely open for play by the end of the day Friday, with the exception of the front 9 at Scottsdale, which was Saturday due to the bridges, had water over. So I think we did a pretty good job there to get people back out. We had to play a couple holes as par 3s. They still are. Number 3 at Scottsdale, because of the gravel, we can't get out there and clean up. And then number 5 here, where we get all the silt across there, we can't really get out there and clean that one up either. So those will be played as par 3s till we can get the work done. And that gives us the opportunity to get out there and do the work without having to dodge golf balls, and it won't interrupt your play any more than necessary. So that is my report for flood. If you have any specific questions or have seen anything, please share that with me. Or if you have any questions for the 3 gentlemen over there, that their golf courses were the ones that were impacted the most, you can feel free to ask them before I go to the next topic. Okay, well, that's good.
Keith, you mentioned about the fisheries were not impacted.
Say that again.
The fisheries were not impacted? The ponds that we're using for the fish were not negatively impacted?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, we talked about the fish. Those are the 2 small ponds on the 9 holes that's open, which is number 5, Burksdale. I have a hard time keeping track of those numbers. They've changed. So we didn't get any flooding out of the bank, so we didn't flush out those ponds, so the fish are still good there. Yeah, good point.
Didn't it flood more, so to speak, toward Country Club, or not really?
No, we had, well, last flood we had, we were on greens. We weren't anywhere close to greens this time. And we had a lot more gravel. And a lot more silt and trees on the golf course. Even Burksdale, we had a little bit on number 2. couple logs. Last time, we had a forest over there that we had to pick up, so it was a lot less severe.
Earlier in the meeting, we talked about carts on path, and then when we return to carts that can drive into the fairways, we're talking about not going through water areas. Is that a significant problem on all the courses, or any of the courses?
I think what we were referring to there, when you can be 95% dry and you'll have one hole, like 2 at Highlands, for example, that we stay on all the time. But some of those valleys that go through, we don't want to close the entire golf course to carts for a small area. So we try to put some signage up, or we ask the golf shop to communicate. Most of y'all play here all the time, you know where those areas are. So what we're asking you to do is just use a little common sense and watch out, and then we don't have to restrict the entire golf course to cart paths, because that's something we do not want to do.
Right, okay, thank you.
The last part of my report was mostly covered about golf course conditions. I want to report the number 1 green here is really progressing well. Rob and his crew have done a good job with that green. It looks good. We're getting the height down. He will have an article coming out within a couple of weeks on the status of that and when it will be open and how we're going to be with that. We did have an article go out also on the tee box you mentioned over there at Kingswood. So what we're trying to do as a group, when we have things like that that are really pretty noticeable to the average person, we're trying to get that in the e-blast with a link to the webpage that has my maintenance area, so you can go read the entire article. And we're putting pictures in there, because pictures are worth way more than my conversation, because you can see it better. So that is my report. Any of us would be willing to answer any questions at the time. Thank you.
Thanks. Kim? She can get the mic on?
Took a little while. Wanted to point out to people who may not have seen it that Forbes put a couple of videos nationally about Bella Vista. And one is on Facebook, and you do not have to be a huge Facebook user to go see it because it's public. They're also on LinkedIn, but this is one video that we want to show you. This is Jim and Denise Klinger, who are residents of Bella Vista, who have moved here recently, had lived here before, moved away, lived internationally, and they kept coming back to, we really need to get back to Bella Vista. So we're going to play that for you. It's pretty short.
That was quick.
Uh-oh. Oh.
For over a decade, Forbes has looked at cities and towns across the U.S., measuring them in terms of safety, affordability, walkability, and much more, to pull together a list of the 25 best places to retire. This year, we decided to go to a few of those cities and meet people who have selected to live here and find out why. Right now, we're in Bella Vista, Arkansas, known for affordability, healthcare, and over 90 miles of hiking and biking trails. My name is Denise Klinger.
And I'm Jim Klinger.
And we retired to Bella Vista, Arkansas. We have so much that we do, and there are so many things we can't possibly get to. There are so many events or wildflower walks or you name it, classes that we want to go to.
Well, and so we always have the phone or the iPad with us so that we can check and make sure that when somebody says, hey, can you, we don't have to say, well, let me get home and check my calendar.
No,
so we always have it with us.
We were commenting on this yesterday, how connected we've gotten just in those few months from all of the activities that we participate in. And I think we've made some really good long-term friendships because of that. So part of being a property owner here gives you access to all these incredible amenities. And as a property owner, my HOA payment is only $24 a month. And I get a country club for $24 a month. And this is some of the view of what we have.
We had all different kinds of data points. You know, there was climate, cost of living, health care, all of these factors that we then weighed and assigned a numerical value to these things, and then decided, okay, there's no perfect place, So what are what place has what we really want? And we know it's not going to have everything, and what things can we live without?
Right.
And we kept coming back to this Bella Vista area, and the affordability here.
Well,
we bought 2 lots.
Well, the price of housing in general is very low here. I mean, I think if we told you what we paid for this place, you would be shocked. I mean, should we say? Can we say? It's $128,000 we paid for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot condo. Our house that we're building, a custom home, is going to be $200,000 or a little bit less on 0.65 acres. And
Which we bought for $2,500.
yeah.
So the wonderful thing about this is it didn't cost the POA any money. Forbes does the best places to retire, and Bella Vista has always been at the top of their list. This year they decided to go visit some of those places, and we were lucky enough to be one of those, and Jim and Denise were cordial enough to spend about 5 hours with the film crew. So I encourage you to go look at the other Forbes one. You can get on their website and find it as well, but it's also really, really good. Also wanted to follow up with Daryl talking about discount cards. We have 23 remaining. And that we started with 350. And also, I talked last time or a couple months ago, whichever it was, about search engine marketing and the campaign where we put in Google Words and AdWords for golf courses near me. And we got our first monthly report for April, and we're blowing it out of the water again. The click-through rate is what we look for, and we are at 8%. The industry average pretty much in a range is 2 to 3%. So we're kicking butt. Just so you know, we're in Fayetteville DMA, we're in Kansas City, Tulsa, Joplin/Pittsburgh, and we have 19 conversions, meaning we can see that they have clicked on our ad, and then they also called from their mobile phone. 19 people. 2 of those were from Tulsa. So all good news. And when you see those non-member rounds, that's what we're spending some money on, is getting the word out there for that. Any questions? Yeah.
I saw something the other day with the Forbes top 20 places to retire, and of the top 20 places to retire, in addition to these videos, Bella Vista was the 3rd best place to retire. So it's we're getting good feedback from Forbes magazine.
Thanks, Kim. Tom?
One of the main things I've been working on most recently is the Trafalgar Road fire. If you have not gone, I can encourage everybody to go on to our website and to look at our video that we put together. It's a 24-minute video. It's a Q&A, and it answers a lot of questions. At this point, we are fielding additional questions, and we're planning on putting together a second video based upon the second set of questions. You answer one question, and it ends up leading to more questions. And so we just want to keep everybody informed as to how we're doing with regards to putting out the fire. And if anybody wants any additional information, they can ask me now or ask me after the meeting or send me an email. And that's pretty much it. Yes,
Just so everybody knows, if you go to BellaVistaPOA.com, do /Trafalgar Fire, that will get you to the page, or you can go on the member resources page, and it's right at the top.
And last thing is, we are at 22% on voting. That's the number of people that have voted. We usually, for an election, wind up around 25%, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's where we wind up this time. 2 weeks to go, so we encourage people to vote, and vote. That's it.
Thanks. Bruce, Patrick? or liaisons? Nope. Any comments from the public in the back, the members? Thanks, everybody, for coming. Wow, get out of here on time. Old business, we talked last meeting about a secretary. Susan has been doing it for us for quite a while, and she wants a little bit of a break, so we'll give everybody one more chance to volunteer. I promise you won't be. We'll get you taken. We'll get you taken care of, Susan. Don't worry. We're going to draw straws before long. All right. So we're going to give you one more meeting to decide, and then we're going to appoint. Right, Susan? We're going to appoint if nobody else volunteers. Okay. So next meeting, we're going to appoint, or somebody will volunteer to take secretary spot from Susan. New business, there's been a lot of conversation lately about overseeding fairways, and we'll pass a note from David Welchel that went to the board, basically covers overseeding, the practice, the effects, and Keith, did you want to cover any of that?
I'll give you a history. I started here in April of 2014. We were in the middle of what I considered a disastrous transition from the ryegrass to the Bermuda grass. My professional opinion was, based on after I visited with the people here, when I was told we wanted to run the most of our rounds, which was in the summer, and our finances, that it was not in the association's best interest to oversee fairways. I had a lot of documentation from the USGA. Also, I have some presentations that I gave that are here if somebody wants to see them. Bottom line is I recommended to this committee that we discontinue the process. They voted to do that, and they took it to the board, and the board voted not to continue overseeding, and that was published in 2000. It was published in the thing that went out 8/22/14 in all the information about why we were not doing it any longer. So the problem with overseeding in general, as you'll read in this article that David did a good job writing, is transitioning from one type of grass, which is warm season Bermuda, which is our base, to get back to that from a cool season grass. It's a temporary grass. It's just for the winter months, maybe early spring. And it's compounded here by the fact that the fairways and most of our turf here is common Bermuda grass, which does not handle overseeding well at all. So it transitions even worse than the new hybrids would. So that was a big part of why I recommended not to do it, because I had seen it before. I've overseeded at various different facilities I've worked at before. And I'm about 50% on having a good transition and a bad transition, and I don't believe it has anything to do with anything we did. It's so weather related. If we were overseeded right now, we would have some really green fairways, but we would pay dearly for it in July and August with this weather we're having. And it was a combined effort over time. It had been overseeded many times, and the Bermuda base never fully recovered, so it got worse and worse. And what I suggested was, if we didn't do it for a couple of years, we would see our fairways in the summer months improve, and I have been told and feel that that is the case.
Why don't you share the information from the USGA reports that we get every year?
Okay, we've got several USGA reports that were done. 14 that came in August, and they looked at our transition, which was still going on then. They basically gave us the same story that I just gave you, that it's very complicated to do, especially with the turf we used. Most clubs that do it for a particular reason, whether it be they want their play to be in the winter months, because that's when they target it, like the desert, for example, or they want to do it for an event, like a PGA event or something like that. So they do it for specific reasons. So they suggested to us that we would look at when the majority of our rounds were played, and if that was not in that window for that cool season grass, which is typically November through April here, then it probably wouldn't be worth doing. So that's what they told us. They showed us a lot of pictures of places that have done it that have had trouble. 14 was a particularly bad year. They're not all that bad because it was a wet, long spring as well. There's years that it would be better. But the bottom line is you don't have a control over that. So you're always taking a risk. And it's relatively expensive. So we even, in my presentation originally, we took what it costs per golf course and say we were going to do 3 golf courses, because at that time we were going through a rotation where you did some different golf courses each year, but they'd gotten stuck on the same golf courses for a while. So we assumed if we could increase rounds 25% over the entire property, that would not pay the cost of overseeding 3 golf courses, which is about $100,000 at that time. And I really didn't think 25% was realistic anyway. That's a lot of rounds for winter months, frankly. So financially, it made no sense either. So those were the reasons that we chose. And the USGA told us those are the things you need to look at. When do you want your play, and how would you finance it? Can you do it properly? The oversee that was done here before I got here, based on some records and some pictures I could show you later offline, was done at a very low rate so they could afford the seed, and that actually compounds the problem. It looked green from the road, but if you were on top of it, there were patches, and you could bump your ball up on it and do that if you wanted to. I mean, I get that, but it's wasn't the best way to do it. So I came up with a number for about $33,000 now, between 33 and 35 to do it today for 32 acres. So that's quite a few rounds of golf. Per course. Per course, yes. Of course, one thing I'll pass these around because I do think these are interesting to look at because I just took these pictures. We have put some of the new, I referred to Common, which is what was put out here originally because it was seeded and it was cheap to build a golf course with. You don't do it that way anymore, most people don't. They have 419, and then the new ones like the Latitude that we put on our collars at Scottsdale and Highlands. Looks really good. Well, I didn't think that might be a fair comparison because there's not a lot of carts up there. So last year, we ended up putting some Latitude about 150 yards to the green on number 17 at Highlands. And if we had that grass, it would be a good playing surface through the winter. I'm going to send these pictures around that were just taken 2 days ago. I can send a couple of them that way too. And then the other thing that's interesting, here's another one. Just today I was doing a little inspection of what we're doing on our greens over there that we've abandoned at Burksdale. So I'm walking down number 7 on the cart path heading back to my office. And there was a little spot that caught my attention, and I'll pass this around, and you can see 2 really green spots, and then you can see the spots that look like what is the issue. That's Common versus, and that happens to be 419, because for the last 10 plus years, any time that something was sodded here that needed to be repaired, we were always putting in a better grass. So even 419 would be better. Obviously, zoysia is the best surface to handle traffic in the winter, but it's, I would say, 2 or 3 times more expensive to do, establish and maintain probably, than the Bermuda grasses. And that Latitude Bermuda grass you see there is one of the new varieties that's come out of Oklahoma State, so it's very winter hardy and tolerant of winter kill. And you can see we've had 2 pretty tough winters since one of those collars was done, and we didn't lose any of that grass.
Thanks, Keith. So as a committee, we need to make a recommendation to the board on how we want to handle overseeding. Yes, Ruth, go ahead, sorry.
Okay, I'm Ruth Hatcher. I'm part of the POA board at this time. And the community has questioned as to why Keith is making the decision or has made the decision rather than the membership and the board itself to overseed. Why would you hire somebody of Keith's caliber who is a top-notch in the country in his field. He has the resources of all other maintenance operators within the United States and foreign countries. He listens to the agronomists who have the field of the new grasses, etc. He is the expert in the field. We need to listen to him for the advice as to what to do on this issue. So as far as the board or the community voting as to whether we want to do this or not, we better be listening to the experts, and we have one of the top-notch people here. So I think it's prudent that we pay attention to what he has said and the advice he has gathered from everybody else.
Thanks, Ruth.
Oh, well, I'm going to say the Latitude that you could sprig probably costs somewhere around I don't have the pricing, but somewhere around $500 to $600 an acre. So you multiply that by 30 acres and you get that number. The downside to the sprigging is it would take at least 3 months in the summer to do it, so you'd be closed. So there would be some lost revenue. Zoysia would be about $1 million to sod one golf course. Sodding would decrease the time you have to be closed. You could sod Latitude as well, so you could narrow that window a little bit, but when you start sodding, it gets very expensive. And really, in Bermuda grass, to sprig it is better. So I'd have to get my calculator out. You could take 600 by 30. That's what the cost of the grass would be to have it planted, and then there's 15% of fertility and some of the other things you have to do. And the biggest issue is closing. Well, the cost is an issue, I understand that, but you have to close as well. How much is that? 32. So it's about $20,000 for the grass to have it planted. That's 419, so the new Latitude might be a little more. And it's been a while since I've done it, but it's way less than sod.
Is that for one course?
Yes.
Plus we can close it.
Plus you close the summer months. And then you've got fertilizer and all the other things. I mean, I would be more comfortable working up an actual number of that before we stick with, because, you know, I haven't checked that. I just got the price to overseed.
The overseed is around
35
per course per year.
But that's everything. That's mowing it, that's doing everything. I just gave you a price per an acre of grass planted. I didn't give you all the other. So I can't throw that number out there because I don't know without sitting down, calculating it out.
Keith, I've got a question. Several people have come to me and specifically about dogwood and hole 17. The fairway on the left side is very, very rocky, and they were saying that when Rob was out there, that he was able to grow some grass in that area. Not Bermuda, because you got the trees that it's in a lot of shade. Is there any kind of grass we can put there that, because the balls, when you hit into the center of the fairway, everything rolls left because it's sloped. And you're just adding, because there's no grass to stop the ball, it's adding to a lot of the problems. And there's several places on the course, some of the courses that are like that, not just dogwood, but is there some kind of grass that we can use to grow in these shaded areas that are rocky areas that?
Zoysia does better in shade than Bermuda.
Well, yeah, but I know that's expensive, and that's.
Well, but there isn't anything, I mean.
I'm just saying, like rye, fescue, anything.
Well, you can put fescue out there, but if it's rocky, you're not gonna make any headway, and it takes way more water to keep it alive, and you'd have to keep carts off of it all the time. You know, you would have to improve the area before you spent money to put anything there, in my opinion. Otherwise, you're just redoing it every year. We did do a spot that was like that, number 8 at Highlands along the cart path, short of the green. 2 years ago, they never grew anything there, can't grow any grass there, and we kind of cleaned it up a little bit, and we put Latitude there, and it's still there. We took some trees down as well.
Keith, is it a crazy idea to say cut the trees back? I mean, is that,
No.
would that
Trees-
help?
Yeah, shade is an issue. But the problem with some of those holes, you can't cut it back far enough to.
Oh,
get the
sure you can.
No, number two, you could go to the top of the mountain, but realistically,
No, I'm talking 17 at Dogwood.
probably
the
be worth
trees-
looking at.
Yeah, I mean, it's a draw.
And it could be, I don't know, Rob, you might probably answer this question better. Some of these areas, we don't have irrigation either. Because that area on number 8, we added irrigation to that when we put that when we put that grass there. And we kept carts off.
There's no irrigation.
Okay, so no matter what you, even Zoysia wouldn't do, it'd be hard to establish.
At least you've given me an answer for the people. Thank you.
You're welcome.
On 17, what golfer in this room tries to hit down the left side of the fairway? No, I have not experienced that. I've experienced trouble with the left one when I
Go left.
but I don't aim down the left-hand side of that fairway. I aim right. and it
Trust me,
stays
it's
right.
not intentional to hit anything on the left side of that fairway. But you can hit it in the center of the fairway and it rolls. So that's all I'm saying.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, Susan.
Okay, so I want to go back to the point we were discussing, which is the overseeding, okay? So, first of all, it doesn't matter to me how much it costs. We don't have the money to pay for it in our budget today. And this year, we're down $64,000 in golf, okay? But more than that, when we did overseed, Keith referred to 2014, but it happened the years before that too. During the transition, what you end up with, if it rains, is a muddy mess in May and September. And May and September are the greatest months for golf because the weather is still nice, and then the fairways were horrible, okay? And the other thing is, when we stopped overseeding, it made no difference in the trend of golf rounds played. Exactly the same trend that we've been running the 10 years before that and the 10 years or the 5 years after it. So to me, overseeding should be a dead issue. And if we were going to spend $33,000 a course to do anything, I would much rather see us level tee boxes or do some of the other things that are a much higher priority for our money.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes.
Hi, my name is Paul Goss. I live up at 30 Cheviot Lane, and I wanted to ask the expert, Mr. Imes, a question from the letter that you shared with all of us. At the bottom of the 4th paragraph, Mr. Welchel, if I pronounced that correctly, says, "Another way to make our fairways better would be to keep carts on the path November to May. There are a couple of courses in the area that do that, and their fairways are better." So I'm asking you, since we don't have money and all the options kicked around the table involve money, what is your response to the comments in this letter to the suggestion that carts be on the path only, November through May?
That would be a no-brainer for me, because it would be, I can't even explain how much better it would be. Because what you need to do is just look at some of the approaches up at some of the greens, even now, that are inside of where our cart signs are, and they're night and day different from where the cart traffic is. Carts are a great thing for revenue, and they are a terrible thing for turf.
So I'm gonna jump on that real quick, because this is where golf operations and my friend Keith kind of fight against this, because if we take carts on path, from that time the rounds are going to diminish huge, and we got to watch that as well with our population, aging population. We implemented the 80, the over 80 handicap flag, and we've seen that's been a benefit. So we try to do the best, work together to try to do it. So I do know the courses that do go carts on path, and yes, it helps the fairways out. but also their rounds decrease considerably during that time.
And one of the ways we tried to do it when I got here was we take 2 weeks off and rotate it. But really, the best time probably for the most critical time, we were off the on pass right now, we would come out of this a lot better. Right now, April through May, somewhere in that, depending on the type of year you have. Because that's when it's just trying to come out and it gets beat to death, and then we have a year like last year when we had a hard frost on top of that, and it knocks it back. So what the earlier, staying on the pass earlier does, it leaves the mat there for you. Okay, so it's something better to play off of during November, December, January, right? February. But the actual growth of the grass now, it damages it then too. But then right now, when it's just now trying to come out like it is, if we were off of it, we would help it a lot as well.
It just seems to me that I haven't heard anyone say it isn't a problem. And you can just go down a fairway and see problems during the 6-month period. So we got no cash. There is a problem. And the expert, according to the lady over here, is saying the course would be a lot better if we'd keep the carts on the path in April and May, because the grass is really trying to come up. So something really does need to be done. That's a solution that costs no money. And I did hear, I don't know your name, but I did hear your comment. But I'll say it costs no money. And this committee has an opportunity to make a recommendation up that will improve our courses for late May, June, July, August, September, October. Perhaps you should take a look at doing something like that. A little pain for a big gain.
So a little clarification on that. So no, there's no cost to keep people on the car pass. There's no physical expenditure, but there is a drop in revenue. As Darrell was just indicating, we would have a drop in revenue. So it would result in less funds coming in. So it's not an expense, you're not paying a bill, but you are losing revenue.
So in the women's leagues that I am in or watch closely, the days that we have carts on path, the participation is probably 30 to 50% less than the days that we are on, that we can go on the fairways. And especially, it's all a balance, and we understand there's a balance between the operational pulls and the maintenance pulls, right? But in April and May is when you really set the tone for the whole year in getting people into the season and getting golfing instead of doing other things. So I think there is a very significant downside of doing carts on path. Although I understand the grass thing too.
Keith, do you think that if we could continue to emphasize not driving down the fairways, and although we've put some notices out, I still see a lot of people drive out the fairway and drive right down the middle of the fairway. Would that help our grass a little bit? Because it seems like a lot of people are doing that. They enter the fairway and they never go back to the cart path. Wow. I know we have the placards up and everything else, but would that help a little bit?
Sure. It's just a matter of can you get them to do it?
Sort of like fixing divots, isn't it? If you can get them to do it.
Yes, sir.
My name's Charlie Powell, and I actually recommended the emphasis on the 90-degree rule back in, I think, October probably was. Unfortunately, we got the signs out there. In fact, I drew them up, and Darrell put my sign out there. Unfortunately, it was too late. We'd already done the damage. To answer your question, if we did 90 degrees and truly went down the rough and came back 90 degrees across, we'd have a lot better grass and it's the golfers that are driving down the fairway that are doing all the damage, and that's why we have no grass in the wintertime. I just wanted to address that one. But I do have a question for Keith. I realize we don't have the money now, but I'd sure like to have you keep it in your hip pocket to stripe in Zoysia. I know of 2 courses I played regularly that did that. It takes 3 years, but in 3 years, the Zoysia takes over the Bermuda, and just something to keep in your hip pocket.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
So is there a possibility of perhaps rotating courses? In other words, for this 2-week period, it's cart path only, but the other courses, you can go the 90 degrees, and then 2 weeks later, open it up and try to help the grass that way.
We do it all winter that way.
Just catching up.
Would closing one course a week for a day help at all?
Why don't you ask those 3 guys that over there? I know what my answer is.
Would it help? I mean, it makes sense to me that it would.
I think it would.
I mean, your work is not done. As a matter of fact, you probably get more work done on a closed course.
I think it definitely helps. I think these rainy stretches we get that don't get as much play, I think you can see the difference. But I personally also think that one day a week isn't going to make the drastic difference that people want. I don't think it's going to make a big enough difference to have one day posted. You get a rainy period like this last week, where we're on paths every day for a week. I think that certainly makes a difference. I don't think one day thrown here and there is going to.
I would agree with that one day, but that one day would allow us to, so we've never aerified fairways out here, or we can't even get fertilizer out, so it would help, but one day a week would not solve
Okay.
the problem.
And I know I've said this before, but, when the Bermuda thins in the winter, I become a much better golfer. Primarily because I get 30 or 40 yards more roll out of my balls, whether I hit a great shot or just a crap shot. It still rolls and rolls hard. Let me bring this up too, I know we've talked about this before. In the winter months, mightn't we offer a patch of AstroTurf to anybody who wants to take it along in their cart? If they don't like the quote hard pan, and throw it down there and put their ball on it and hit, and I don't. If the guy next to me says, "Well, you can't do that. That's not fair." Not fair. This is Bella Vista Golf. It ain't not fair. Hell, you move the ball around anywhere you want it when you get out of the cart. I'm just asking the question.
Bruce brought that up maybe last month's meeting. I went down to the NCAA at the Blessings, which has Zoysia fairways, and they're making all their members use this piece of AstroTurf. It's about this size, and that's not because of the quality of their fairways, it's because they're keeping it ready for the championships down there. And I think it's a great idea. So I'm looking into it right now, the weight of it, the cost of it, and what it can do. And who knows, I'm going to bring it up to the committee coming into the year, into the winter season. I think it's a good idea.
I think there's solutions. We've got besides overseeing. Let's go ahead and take this to a vote if we want to recommend overseeding or not.
Is it necessary to take a vote?
Tom?
I think it's always great when the golf committee is able to support the recommendations of our superintendent.
I move that we continue the practice of not overseeding our golf courses.
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Yes, Patrick, and then Mr. Al.
I think that one of the things, Charlie was talking about the 90-degree rule, and that's something that I brought up before this committee, and we did post something, but I think that enforcement is an issue. And I think part of the problem is, and I know I don't play golf very frequently, but one time I was playing golf, and one of the guys that was driving the cart, I was a passenger, and he was driving right down the middle of the fairway, and I didn't have the gumption to tell him to drive the damn thing on the golf cart or to the side. And I think that that's probably not an uncommon feeling if you're just the passenger and then whoever is steering doesn't do what they're supposed to do. But I think that an issue that we have to look at is what do we do to enforce that? And if you can't enforce it, then you can't have that rule.
That's about like replacing divots. I think you just have to encourage people, and maybe through good practices, and if maybe that's a good thing to bring up with your group leaders, Darrell, about encouraging people to, that's one of the things really hurting our play through the winter is driving down the middle of the fairway. And I have ridden with people, and I say to them, do you see that placard up there? This is, well, I didn't do it. It's sort of like I'm not parking on the cart path and they get up next to the green. Have you ridden with anybody that drives up next to the green, and for some unknown reason, they'll put all four wheels off next to the green? And I said to somebody the other day, why do you do that? Well, I don't know. They just do it without thinking.
I don't know if it would be a reasonable idea, but I was just thinking about what can you do to prompt people to drive on the sides of the fairways, where my ball is always, and it's like you can't do that. But maybe we could put something, a plant or, something, and get people used to driving outside of that line, the line between the cart path and the end of the fairway, and on the other side from the end of the fairway out to the side, but putting something, a marker of some sort. I don't know, but I'm just thinking that if people got used to driving in that path, that might save some of the middle parts of the fairway for those people who have the skills to hit it.
If you put a marker that shows carts off and carts on, you'll get a path right there.
Well,
And the grass will absolutely
Okay.
be dead there. I think, Pat,
I didn't say it was a good idea.
No.
David.
They used to do that here. They had the lollipops, a green and a red. Green go off, red come on. But I think the only thing that I think is really going to work is peer pressure. The golf groups are going to have to emphasize it to their members, tell each other, get your tail over to the rough or back to the path. And the same way with pitch marks on the green, you just have to keep at it, and it's the peer pressure that does it. And one thing that I've noticed, we're starting to carry sand on the carts now, but I see too many guys take a scoop and plop a whole scoop of sand down on a little divot, and I'm thinking of these guys back there coming along with their mowers going, oh my God, there go my blades. Sand is not the friend of blades. So it takes a little bit of sand to cover the roots. That's all they need. And that's peer pressure. We're going to have to slowly spread the word, and that's how it'll get done, I think.
Yeah, I understand. You don't want to be rude to people, but you just have to come out and say, hey, this is our golf course, and all our members here just need to take care of their golf course and say, just, drive 90 degrees, fix your divots. And if you say it out, I guarantee the people that they'll understand, because they know better than to run down the middle of the golf course. But just come up here and just tell them.
The pretty lady that rides with me to make sure I do that.
You do that?
Yeah, she's pretty vocal about that.
I have one other item I'd like to bring up, since we're talking about the winter grass and all. Next winter, can I ask that the maintenance crew spray paint around where the gold markers are out in the grass? Because when you cannot see them, if you don't know where they're at, they blend in with the dead, the brown grass. But I noticed when you did the mark around the temporary green down here, it shows up real well. If we could just do that occasionally on the gold markers.
That's not a problem at all. I need
Thank
to
you.
clarify one thing too. The last time I sent a text to my grass guy. Last time I sprigged was 2001, which was the same year, I think, the last time we had an assessment increase. The sprigs back then were 450, now they're 1,650. That changes the game. I thought I might be a little light. I didn't think I'd be that light.
All right, thank you. Last thing, announcements. Don't forget the community input meeting on Brittany is next Tuesday, the 14th at 4. Had 2 new ones. The volunteer day here at the country club, the 16th from 8 to 11. The May 22nd Bio Blitz, did I say that right? At Birchdale, 10 to 2. And we need to reschedule our June meeting because of the APT, because most of us will be out helping at the APT during our meeting time. So if we could reschedule that to June 5th, which is the first Wednesday. Four o'clock here. Yes, we do.
I make a motion, we move the June meeting to the 5th.
Second.
I'll second it.
Favor? Thank you. So we'll meet here June 5th, that for our June meeting. Anything else? Thank you. Thanks for the comments. Meeting adjourned.
I don't preface any of my ideas with you. I got a good idea.
And why did you laugh when I?